going from Costa Rica to Canada with a van, trailer, and a family. Well, the first stop, I guess, is Nicaragua, Costa Rica border, going into Nicaragua. They made us take everything out of the trailer and scan it, and yeah, that took like, I think, 4 hours. 4 or 5 hours. It's ridiculous. Nicaragua is ridiculous. And when that took 4 or 5 hours, and then leaving Nicaragua, we had to bring all the books in. And this is, I think we were there for 5-6 hours, leaving Nicaragua. And so yeah, so it was totally ridiculous. Nicaragua is ridiculous. And Nicaragua, I was driving at night, and then this truck had hit the semi-truck had hit the road, hit the ditch, and so I slowed down. I took the cruise control off of 60, and then slowed down and check what's going on. And there's no cops there or anything, so I'm like, maybe it just happened. So I forgot to put the cruise control on, so I slowly sped up to 65. And about 2 miles later, there's the cops. You know, I'm thinking about this guy hitting the road and all that. Then put the cruise control. So I was going 65, so I get pulled over again for speeding. There, all the speed limits say 80, but the speed limit is 50. This is Nicaragua in a nutshell. So anyways, and then, and to get into Nicaragua, I had to get a special permit, a 3-day permit for the books, and they said that if you have the books in Nicaragua and these are just school books and song books, so they say if you have the books in more than 3 days, you're gonna pay a fine. I'm like, well, whatever, we're planning to be out of Nicaragua as soon as possible. And then so anyway, so to get the permit though, to be able to have the trailer in Nicaragua, I had to. This one guy was helping me, and I gave him $20 American because he was a big help. He was trying to push it through, but it still took 4 to 5 hours. So it was ridiculous. But anyways, there was I had to go where the semi trucks get permits to get into Nicaragua, and there was like 50 semi truck drivers lined up. He takes me to and shows me the big lineup. I'm like, oh boy, I'm going to be here for 2 days. But he said, just go to the window and tell him that you just have a car. So in Spanish, I went like halfway to the window, cut the line. Well, I didn't cut the line because I'm like, man, I don't want 50 truckers beating me up. And I'm yelling, where do I go for a car permit? And then and I'm yelling, carro, right? And then permission and all that, right? So the guy at the window yells and yells at me to come over. So I'm like, oh great. And then the truckers are like, hey, come, he's calling you. Come, paso. And then so I go, and that was nice. And there was a El Salvador truck driver there that could speak English, and he kind of helped whatever. That all took like 10 minutes, I think, to get the permit there. But that was nice. I mean, all those truck drivers, 50 of them standing there, and they're patient. Like it's Latin America. What do you expect? Nothing. You just expect to wait all the time. And then, so anyway, so we got the permit, but there was a 3-day permit. If we don't leave before then, you're gonna have to pay a fine or pay even more, right? And just because of the books, I think. And we didn't have to do that coming back the other way, where when they counted all, like we had 11,000 tracks, gospel tracks, and they counted every single one, like every single one. And we added on the boxes how many were there, and coming back we only had, I think, like 200 books. There's school books for the children, and music books, and other reading books, studying books, and all that. And so we had like 200. But going out of Nicaragua, they made us bring all the books in, and they wrote down all the books. And how many books there are and all that. I'm like, who gives a shit how many books you're taking out of the country? Like which crazy country is this? Like, this is an insane country, Nicaragua. Anyways, and then so we did stay one night in Leon, in Nicaragua. A nice place, whatever, but it was the only place we could find late at night, and it kind of took us a bit out of the road. So getting back to the road, the GPS, or getting out of the country, the GPS took us down this crappy road. Like, it was really wide, but so full of potholes that we were wondering if we're going into a trap, right? But just before we turn from the highway onto this road, there's a little town, and at the intersection there's a guy, and he must have seen the puzzlement and surprise of what is this, right? Going down this crappy dirt road just about, and he's just laughing, and he's like thumbs up and waves us on, right? So I guess it's not the only time that gringos have taken out a road and been surprised or puzzled. But anyways, it was a really wide road, and it was a shortcut, quite a bit of a shortcut to get to where we wanted to go. But yeah, that is Nicaragua. Anyway, once we're through Nicaragua, this was 4 or 5 hours. Getting out of Nicaragua and to Honduras was no problem. And I still had a permit from before to stay in Honduras, but this guy that was supposed to help me, he went and submitted the permit, so I had to buy another permit to get through Nicaragua. So that was a screw up. I didn't pay him anything. He didn't help much. I just drove away. Yeah, so it was only $12 American though, that permit. But I had the stupid permit, so I had to get another permit to get out of or into Honduras. And then so we slept and went through to Honduras, and then stayed in Honduras for one night just before the border, and then crossed into Guatemala. Okay, this is a big difference from Nicaragua borders, no matter if you're going in or out, to Honduras and Guatemala. We came into Honduras, they didn't even check our stuff. Nothing. They didn't check any trailer or nothing. And and the same thing when we left Honduras. It was like hour and a half in Honduras to go from Honduras to Guatemala and do the transition with both countries signing out of Honduras, submitting submitting the permit you have to in Honduras, sign out with the passport, and sign into Guatemala. And I had permits to drive in Honduras already. I already had everything to drive in Honduras, so that took an hour and a half, all of that. And then in Guatemala we stayed in San Francisco again. That's where before where we in San Francisco is where I put diesel. Accidentally we put diesel into the van, and then we were shut down there for 24 hours for 2 days or whatever. We were shut down there, and then so that is whatever. That's where we stayed again because we kind of liked the place, and then we spent the evening there. We were kind of shut down early, spent the evening, went down to the park, and yeah, everybody chicken, and like it's $2.50 I think to get a big piece of chicken with tortillas and all that, and fries, and man alive, it fills you right up. Anyway, so anyways, we did that, and then it's 3 hours next morning to get to the Guatemala-Mexican border. And so that border was hour and 15 minutes we were through. It was very quick, and I had to, they put stickers in Guatemala on your trailer and truck, and then just whatever. It would have been quicker, but the same border crossing guy that dealt with us going into Mexico, he dealt with us coming the other way, but there was an issue for the people that were coming in from Mexico. And so he was yelling at them just like he did with us when we came in from Mexico. He's pretty hard, but anyways, he just comes and he's like, "What do you want?" And then I said, "Oh, we're going to Mexico." Okay. He takes the paperwork, does something in the office, comes out, takes the stickers, and he said, "Go." So we had to go. That was canceling the permit for the truck and trailer, and then we had to go to to sign out with our passport in Guatemala, and he was gonna charge me $3. $3, and then the kids and the wife comes in, and they're like they were like $3, and then how many? Oh, $3 each. And then when they found out it was all the kids and the wife, then they're like, oh, nothing, we'll do it for free for you. And then they were like, oh, totally enthralled with the kids, eh? So they just did it for free. They did the paperwork and going into Mexico. And in Mexico, I still had the permit from before. You have to pay $700 to get a permit in from USA to Mexico. So I had that, and then so just signing in with the passport into Mexico was pretty quick. They organized it, they helped it. My wife and my oldest son, we did the paperwork, and it didn't take long. Like I said, it was an hour and 15 minutes to get through both borders out of Guatemala into Mexico. And then in Mexico, I was getting a different I was going to use a different strategy. Going from USA to Guatemala, the other way, we were doing everything according to the Canadian travel advisory, avoiding the cartel provinces and all that. But this time I'm like, we're just going to go straight through. The shortest way, half of the way, was cartel. The cartel provinces. And I'm like, I don't care. It couldn't be worse than going the other way when we got stopped 6 times. And the 6th time they held us up for 2 hours trying to get money out of us. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm just gonna go through cartel. All pretty much. 50% of it was red cartel, where Canada advisory says not to go. I didn't care. I just did it. In less than 2 days, we were out of Mexico. We never got stopped to ask for money, whereas going the other way, we got stopped 6 times, and they were always asking for money. And like I said, the 6th time they held us up for 2 hours, had me surrounded with guns and everything, not pointing at me, but surrounded and intimidating. They knew I had $300, and they wanted that $300, and I was like, no way in hell am I gonna give you anything. I was pissed off by then, so I was giving them nothing. They held us up for 2 hours. Finally they let us go when I said, no, I'm giving you nothing. I said, none, nada. And then they put a thing in our tire, a screw in our tire, which whatever, we fixed that in Guatemala. And then going through Mexico, we actually had a blowout in the van. The spare tire, I didn't switch it back to the original tire, which was my fault. So we had a blowout, and whatever, it took 15 minutes to change it, and then we changed it in Texas. Actually, we put a new tire for $98. Got a brand new tire on our spare. So we're in good shape there. So anyways, but yeah, we stopped one night in Mexico and just pushing it. I was gonna get out of Mexico as fast as possible, and we just boogied it. And it cost us about $100 US in tolls, which is pretty good. The other way, it cost us like 2 or 3 times more. So, but we're just boogieing it out of there, going through the red provinces and everything. That was awesome. And then, but getting out of Mexico, the GPS took me to the wrong border crossing, because in order to get your $500 back, I think it's $500 or $700. It's $500 US back. You have to cancel your permit with the US authorities. And GPS took me through the border where they don't do that. So, and we're waiting like an hour or so to get through, and then in front of us was a lady that didn't have enough money to get through, so we gave her the money. And then we gave her the money, and it worked out good, so that everybody else can go through, because they won't let you unless you have the money. So what I had to do then, I had to get and this was late already. It was like 11 at night. They said you have to walk across the border and then get the permits canceled. That way you get your money back. So I walk across the border, and they say, oh, you have to bring your vehicles back to Mexico to cancel your permits. So I'm going back from Mexico to U.S. I'm walking this time. I walked back to Mexico. I let the wife and the kids in the van and everything, the park in the park in Texas. And then so I walked across, and then whatever, it was a quick crossing, $2-3 permit to walk, or whatever, told to walk. And then coming back was like an hour wait though to USA, because everybody's going over to Mexico buying their toilet paper and stuff like that. And then so yeah, I was pretty mad. And by the time I got back, it was like 12 o'clock. Yeah, about 12 o'clock, maybe a bit later, 1 o'clock. And then finding a room, I dumped the kids off and the wife and took as much stuff out of the trailer as we possibly could, so I didn't have problems driving back to Mexico and getting the permits canceled. So the trailer was empty, or halfway empty, so you could see what was in there. And so anyway, so I had to do that. But actually I forgot about going from the US to Mexico. They got us to sit, get out of the vehicle, and they went through everything. They made a hell of a mess in the trailer. I guess we're Canadian and they're trying to be hard, and we tried to make sure we had no fruit or anything in there. But they were digging around the van and the trailer, and they found one freaking orange. And they were gonna give me like a $300 fine for one Evan orange. Anyways, I'm like, you're an idiot. And he's just reaming me out, and I'm standing there like thinking, you're such an idiot. Finally, I stood up and whatever, showing him respect and nodding and all that, and finally calmed down and let us go without a fine. I'm like, this is just a power play that he's doing. It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, so that happened going into the USA. And then going the other way, by the time I came through with the van, the border guards already recognized me because I had walked through already once. So they just didn't even stop me. They just looked at my passport and just said, okay, go. So they let me, that was smooth. But to get the darn permit canceled in Mexico, you have to make sure you have your vehicle there, you have everything, all the paperwork, and I don't even know if I actually got the $500 back yet. I didn't look at my statement, of course, as you see, I'm out in BC and didn't have time to go over anything. But yeah, that's how it was going from Costa Rica to USA, and then of course going from USA to Canada. We didn't have, we bought like probably $500 worth of stuff that we brought back in Guatemala and Costa Rica and I think Mexico. Yeah, in Mexico we bought something, but we didn't make a list. So the guy's giving us trouble of not having a list and all that, and he's gonna take us in there. He said, next time we're gonna take you in and take everything out of your vehicle and see what you have and all that. I'm like, whatever. Anyways, make sure you have a list. We should have known that, but whatever. I had everything else on my mind. Didn't think about the stupid list. But yeah, it was way quicker, way more efficient. The second time we knew what we were doing, kind of. And yeah, it was pretty good, except for Nicaragua. Both borders at Nicaragua sucked. I really hate Nicaragua. And Mexico was really nice, really good this time. You gotta make sure you go through the cartel provinces, and then you don't get stopped by the cops for money. So yeah, that is my take on what you have to do with look at the beautiful scenery here in BC. Wow, that is what my take on what happened to us coming back into Canada. And yeah, everybody loves the trip, and see you later.